G'day Tony, how you doing?
Good, thanks mate. Yourself?
Not too bad mate. Today we're going to do a Scotchy.
Yes.
I think a lot of people get a little bit intimidated by cooking steak.
Right.
What's some of the tips you reckon we should give?
I'll start off with a good yearling beef. You know what you're buying is first thing. Get something with a little bit of age on it, and always look for something with a bit of fat on it. And the other thing is, don't cut it too thin.
Okay.
Keep that thickness there, or keep it nice and moist.
Yeah, so these Scotchies we've got here, whereabouts are they from?
There's southeast, teas from down southeast Narracourt.
Gorgeous, let's have a cut and see how we're looking inside on this one.
We always face up first, get that away there, and then we've got our nice size, so that's a nice 200 gram steak there. So we generally cut our steaks something similar to that. You can see that nice marbling through there.
Marbling looks gorgeous.
Really
on
nice.
That.
So that to me is a perfect piece of meat. You've got the colours there nice, and a lovely bit of white fat, no yellow about that at all, still 18 months or younger. And like that there now is 21 days old. We've kept that, we've aged it for 21 days, so it'll come up really nice. All
right Tony, so what I'm thinking today is we do it with a little bit of mashed potato, an onion jab, some sautéed mushrooms. What do you reckon? How do you reckon that will go?
What time's lunch?
Hey, I'm going to go find that mushroom man, and I'm going to buy the rest of our stuff.
Beautiful.
Thanks mate, cheers. All right, Marco, so down the front we've got our Scotch fillet.
Awesome.
We've got some mushrooms that we're going to saute. The potatoes for the mashed potato, and we peel the potatoes and we put them in cold water.
Yeah, cool.
It's always a good thing to start starchy vegetables in cold water because it helps them cook through gently. And we've also got some onions that we're going to make a nice little onion jam out of. With the onion jam, what we're going to do is we're just going to slice it nice and thin. Then we're going to start to saute it down and sweat them down and get the natural sugars out of the onion. So we're also going to start these in a cold pan just so we can bring them up to heat nice and slowly. We're going to add in a little bit of veg oil. So we're going to place our onions into the pan. With it nice and thin, it's going to caramelise down and cook out quite nicely. We have our Scotch fillets here. We've brought them up to room temperature. It's very important when you're cooking proteins, you're not cooking them from cold. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a nice season. Pepper. Make sure you season both sides. You want to get it into a nice hot pan because it will help to caramelise the flavours. So Marco, that pan's nice and hot. You can tell the oil's really starting to move around freely.
And this is searing both sides, yeah?
Yep.
Awesome.
So what we want to do is caramelise the sugars inside the meat, and that will give us a nice brown outside. Give it a quick jiggle to make sure it's not stuck to the bottom of the pan, and we're going to leave it. We don't need to continually turn steak. By continually turning the steak, you're going to make the steak very, very tough. The onions are starting to caramelise down, and there's a little bit colour forming on the bottom of the pan. So what I'm going to do is to get that flavour back into the jam, so I'm just going to deglaze with a little bit of white wine.
Okay. So what does deglazing really mean?
Deglazing is taking the excess sugars and things that have caramelised on the bottom, it takes it off and imparts it back into the dish.
Awesome.
So while we're waiting for that to come on, what we're going to do is we're going to prepare some of the mushrooms. So what mushrooms have we got here, Mushroom Man?
Swiss brown buttons and large open Swiss, which are also known as portobello.
Okay, I'm going to do two quick little techniques here. I'm going to take the stem out of the middle of the Swiss brown, actually just put that in the pan with the steak, that one.
Yeah, cool.
And what I'm going to do with the other Swiss browns is I'm going to saute some of them with some salt and pepper and some butter, and we're going to put that in with our glaze to make our jus.
Awesome.
So with these, I'm just going to quarter them. So we're going to put our mushrooms into the pan.
Cool.
And we're just going to start to get them sauteing off. So this onion jam's nearly there. And what we're going to do is we're going to put in what's called a gastric.
Okay.
And a gastric is vinegar and sugar. And what it does is it helps with the sweet, salty, sour, and helps to combine everything in together.
Creates a nice balance.
All right, Marco, so let's put in a little bit of the vinegar. Because we put the vinegar in, we want to balance it out. So we've got a little bit of brown sugar that we're going to put in. So our onion jam's nearly there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull that off to the side. So these mushrooms are starting to saute really nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a little bit of glaze, and that's just going to help finish cooking them off. If you look on top of there, Marco, the blood's starting to come to the top. So what we're going to do is we're just going to turn it just the once. And then we're going to cook it out the other side. The other side isn't going to take as long as the top side.
Because obviously it started warm.
And what we're going to do is, when we've got that nearly done,
Yep.
we're just going to rest it in a warm oven at about 50 degrees, and that's just going to help to relax the muscle again. So I've strained off the potatoes, and I'm just going to let it sit there for a minute just to get the rest of the moisture out. A good little tip with steaks is, a lot of people have a little bit of trouble deciphering how they're actually cooked. For a blue steak, what we do is we'd leave it out on the bench till it get up to room temperature, and then we quickly sear it both sides. So it's cooked on the outside, but then very rare in the middle.
Yep.
Up from that, we have rare.
Yep.
It's not that intense red that blue is. It's a little bit lighter. It's nice and pink still.
Yep.
Well done's very, very tight. The meat's very, very tight.
Yep.
So when you touch it, it's not going to spring back so much. It's just, it's not going to indent at all.
So how are we cooking this one today?
We're cooking it medium rare. That looks about ready for me. Is we're going to place some butter on top. And I've set the oven at about 50 degrees, and that's just going to be a nice temperature that we're going to rest it at.
Yeah, cool.
So Marco, next thing we're going to do is we're going to mash our potatoes.
Yep.
We've got a little bit more butter here that we're going to put in with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to get in and mash that up.
Bit of elbow grease.
Add a little bit of pouring cream in there as well.
Yep.
So we're going to mix that in nicely. And that's going to create a nice creamy mash for us.
I love good mashed potato.
Potatoes being quite a starchy vegetable, you will need a fair bit of salt just to bring the salt flavour through. It's a good thing if you don't want to see the pepper in your mash, use white pepper, just already ground.
Yep.
But for our steak, we'll use a little bit of cracked black pepper. It doesn't matter if there's a few specks of black in there. All right, and there's our mashed potato ready to go. I'm going to put a nice big spoonful of our creamy mashed potato.
Yep.
Put our steak on top.
Awesome.
We've got a portobello mushroom that we can put on top there.
Yep.
Nice bit of our onion marmalade.
Dollop of jam.
We've got a few more of the mushrooms. Just going to scatter them around the plate. With our glaze, we're just going to glaze over the top.
Smells fantastic, man.
And there we go, Marco. There's our Scotch fillet.
Voila, that looks awesome, man.
Let's have a taste, shall
Let's
we?
try. That's a great steak.
That little bit of fat you need inside the Scotch fillet, it really helps with the flavours.
That's a beautiful mashed potato, man. Really lovely.
Nice and creamy.
Yeah. Well seasoned too.
Well, Marco, I think we better go find ourselves a glass of red.
Fantastic.
Always a pleasure.
Nick, till
Thanks,
next time.
Marco.